there, booksy, welcome back to my channel. It is Friday, July 5th. I'm here to share my Friday reads. It's been a surprisingly bookish week. I've only finished 2 books, but I've started a few others, and I've been vlogging all week, so I feel like I've been sharing my bookish life with you even though you haven't seen that vlog yet. I've decided to vlog for most of this month maybe because my summer schedule, my July schedule is a little bit more relaxed than it usually is. I feel like I have more time to focus on the bookish parts of my life, and I'd like to share that with you. So stay tuned for vlogs coming soon. I suppose maybe I'll do like a weekly reading vlog or something, but I've been vlogging. And this week I've read 2 books, I've started other books, and I've even bought a couple of books. So first I'm going to show you the books that I bought this week, and there's going to be a lot of blame it on booktube and blame it on booktubers in this video. The first book I'm going to show you is Difficult Woman by Roxane. I went to the bookstore a couple of days ago and I bought this one. They had a sale at Barnes & Noble where these hardcovers, these exceptional value hardcovers, were $5 each. So I picked up a couple of them. I've seen Difficult Women talked about here on BookTube many times, and in the years since it's been published, because it came out in 2017, I've read 2 of her other books, but I just hadn't read this one. Still haven't read it. I read her Hunger, Memoir of a Body, I think it was, where she talked about being abused as a child and how the shame that she has carried for so many years has fueled a lot of the decisions that she's made. Earlier this year, I read her short story collection entitled Haiti, where she talked about people who live in Haiti and people who have immigrated from Haiti and are looking for a different life, and what are some of the challenges and the compromises that people face, whether they decide to stay at home or try to find a better life somewhere else. And I've been moved by her writing, and I want to read more from her. I think that she is a powerful force. This is also a short story collection, and I read the first story while I was sitting in the bookstore, and it was about 2 sisters who were abused while they were children. And I don't know whether that is a theme that will pervade through the rest of this book, but it was quite an interesting story, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes on. I don't know if I'm going to continue the stories right now or if I'll stretch this out, read a story a day or something, but I've officially started Difficult Woman by Roxane. No, it's not on my TBR, but the next book, I know exactly who to blame for this one, is Sean the Book Maniac. This is all your fault. I went into the bookstore and I saw Idaho by Emily Ruskovich. The sticker is covering the author's name on the front, so here we go. I saw Sean mention this book in his video. I think it might have been his alphabet book tag, which he started a couple of days ago. He raved about this book, and I don't recall having heard him talk about this book before, so I don't know that I know what the book is about. I looked at the synopsis. I can't specifically say that this is a book that I'm going to love, but Sean is such a picky reader in that he'll start a book, and if it's not gripping him within the first few pages, it's a bail. And if he gets to 70% in the book and it changes and he's no longer interested in the book, he'll bail. That's not something that I can do very easily, but what I am saying is that I'm impressed by a book that Sean raves about because I feel like it has endured a really difficult test. So if he raves about a book, I want to check it out, even if I'm not sure I'm going to love it. So Idaho by Emily Ruskovich is one that I'm blaming on Sean the Book Maniac because he made me buy it, but it was just $5. This was also on that $5 hardcover sale. The first book that I finished, started and read in one day, was The Editor by Stephen Rowley. I have this author's Lily and the Octopus on my physical TBR. It's been on my TBR shelf from way back when I had a TBR shelf. Now it's on my TBR pile. I still haven't read it. James Smale, he's been trying to get a story sold for years, and he has an agent. Finally one day his agent says, I have good news for you. You have an appointment with an editor. Turns out the editor is Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. And so James Smale and Jackie Kennedy Onassis in the 1990s publish a book together, but before that book can go to publication, James Smale has to reconcile some things about how the book ends. The book is about his relationship with his mother, and through him editing and rewriting the story, he's able to work on his real life / fictional relationship with his mother. But it also bears some imprint of Jackie seemingly reconciling some things about her own life. So there were a little bit of unexpected plot twists in this book, so it's not quite what I expected it to be, but I enjoyed reading this. I enjoyed the little look back into history at a time when Jackie Kennedy was still alive and a fledgling writer had an opportunity to have such an influential woman work on their art. The next book that I finished this week is All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque. The front tagline says, "This is the greatest war novel of all time." I'm not sure if that is correct, but this was a very different kind of war novel for me, and I'll tell you why. This is translated fiction. It is translated from the German. Translator is A.W. Wien. This is my first time reading a book about World War I or II that was written by a soldier, someone who was fighting, actively fighting on the other side. And I guess a lot about this novel speaks to the universality of war and the experience, how the experience is the same no matter what side you're fighting on. All the countries involved sent innocent young men, some of them to their death, some of them to very life-changing experiences, traumatic losses that they might never recover from. And so in this story, we see these young men, a group of young schoolboys, they're 18 years old when they enlist in the army, and they're childhood friends, they're schoolboys together, and they volunteer together, fight together, some of them die together. And it is a very profound statement about war and its reaches, but it also in a big way shows how comradeship and camaraderie can be the thing that causes a person to survive or not. This is a mass market paperback that I've owned since last year, and I picked it up kind of on a whim. It isn't even on my TBR, so this is me going rogue to pick up a book about fighting for freedom, but I'd recommend this one if you haven't read it before. And so those are the two books that I finished this week. I also started The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Brashares, and I'm reading this one because of a reading challenge that I'm doing during the summer. And the specific prompt that this one addresses is to read a book with an article of clothing in the title. Pants are an article of clothing. And this one is targeted towards younger readers. I can't say whether it is young adult or middle grade because the characters are about 15, 16. And I'm sure everyone knows the synopsis of this. There's a pair of magical pants, and these four friends, even though they all have very different body types, the pants fit them all perfectly. They decide to share these pants, and as they go off on their summer trips, each girl is going to wear the pants for a specific period of time and then send it off to the next person. And so the pants will travel and keep the girls close. I'm enjoying it. This book was published on September 11, 2001, so I feel like this is also traveling through a different part of history to right now. If you haven't read this one, you might be the only other person who hasn't read this before, so I'm remedying it. If you haven't, then you should pick it up. It's kind of a fun, easy read. I should have read this already. I was actually going to read this in a day, but then my plans changed and I didn't finish, but I'm going to finish it pretty soon. Next time you hear me talk about this book, I would have finished it. I'll be able to tell you whether or not I loved it or not, but I think I'm going to love it. The next book that I started is definitely a blame it on BookTube and a booktuber. Robert over at Barter Hordes has been raving about this book. He actually said, whatever else you're reading, drop that and pick this book up. And I didn't quite drop everything else that I was reading, but I did pick up this book. I requested it from the library. It came in and I read the first few pages and I was absolutely blown away by the prose in this book. It is so engaging. I started it today and I don't want to stop. I want to drop everything else that I'm reading. I want to stop everything else that I'm doing and finish reading this book. But it's a big one, so I know I can't finish it in a day. I'm going to come back to this one over the weekend, and next time we talk, I'll be able to tell you how much I love this book. I feel like this is a book I'm going to love. Robert has raved about this. Jacqueline over 6 Minutes From Me has raved about this book. I don't know who else has raved about this book. I seem to love books set in India. I feel like I have read a lot of books that were written by Indian writers, and I feel like I can't go wrong when I pick up a book by an Indian author. And this is a young Indian woman too. This is her debut novel. I don't know too much about the synopsis, and I don't want to spoil the synopsis for myself by reading it now that I've started the book. So if you haven't heard about this book before and you're interested to pick up this book, I'm going to suggest that you check out the Goodreads link and see what the book is about. So far in the book, we've met this young woman named Shalini. She's her mother's only child, and her mother has just died, and she's feeling a little unmoored. And as she's going through the motions, trying to reconcile being back home after college and adjusting to life without her mother, she's finding out that her mother had secrets from her. And I don't know how much of the book is going to be her exploring her mother's secrets. I don't know. I'm actually going to read you the first paragraph of this book. I am 30 years old, and that is nothing. I know what this sounds like, and I hesitate to begin with something so obvious, but let me say it anyway, at the risk of sounding naive, and let it stand alongside this. 6 years ago, a man I knew vanished from his home in the mountains. He vanished in part because of me, because of certain things I said, but also things I did not have until now the courage to say. So you see, there is nothing to be gained by pretending to a wisdom I do not possess. What I am, what I was, and what I have done, all of these will become clear soon enough. This country, already ancient when I was born in 1982, has changed every instant I've been alive. Titanic events have ripped it apart year after year, each time rearranging it along slightly different seams, and I have been touched by none of it. Prime ministers assassinated, peasant guerrillas waging war in emerald jungles, fields cracking under the iron heel of a drought, nuclear bombs cratering the wide desert floor, lethal gases blasting from pipes and into 10,000 lungs, mobs crashing against mobs and always coming away bloody. Consider this. Even now, at this very moment, there are people huddled in a room somewhere waiting to die. This is what I have told myself for the last 6 years. Each time I have had the urge to speak. It will make no difference in the end. All of those events that she just put together in a sentence about how they don't affect her are all mass disasters that we could all think about. The Gopal incident, Indira Gandhi. Oh man. I got shivers just reading that first paragraph. Well, those are actually the first 3 paragraphs in one. But I suggest that you read The Far Field by Madhuri Vijay. I picked it up. I think you should pick it up as well. And then the last book is one that I have kind of put on my TBR and taken it off my TBR. I put it on my TBR last month because I wanted to read it because it was nominated for the Women's Prize, and some people thought that it was going to win. It didn't win, so I took it back off my TBR. It's also on my TBR because I bought it and I plan to read it. It's last year's Booker Prize winner. And, you know, I'm reading or trying to read all the Booker Prize winners this year, trying to read them in more or less chronological order. So I was saving this most recent winner for the last. But one of my subscribers, Jenny, hi Jenny, wants to do a buddy read. We had talked about doing a buddy read last month when it was on my TBR. So I decided to fulfill that and do the buddy read with her now because she's ready. And then I heard Sean started to read this. Again, Sean the Book Maniac, you're having a lot of influence on my reading. I heard Sean talk about this in his Friday Reads video this morning. And I was like, Sean loves this book. He actually said this is one case where the Booker judges have gotten it right. So I'm intrigued. I'm now going to get back to reading this book. So next time you hear from me, I'll probably be able to tell you that I read this book, hopefully that I loved it, and that I finished this one and that it ended as impressively as it began. So that's my Friday reading recap. Let me know in the comments down below what your week was like, whether you had a really bookish week and read a lot, or whether you're looking forward to the weekend to get some reading done. I'd love to talk with you in the comments. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk down there. And until next time, happy weekend, happy reading. Bye.